Hi, and welcome to Rontime. Today's an anniversary for me. A year ago, I came on Soul Mechanics, a show put on here at Access 12 by my buddy and psychic card reader Jim Hecker. And a year ago, I sat here and I challenged the President of the United States to a game of horse. The outcome of which would determine whether or not he signed a presidential proclamation creating Harry Anslinger Day, a national day of gardening for hemp and cannabis across the United States of America, and a day that releases all prisoners who have ever been incarcerated because of cannabis legislation and because of sentencing relative to laws concerning cannabis and hemp in the United States. These are laws which were created through congressional hearings in 1937 by a gentleman named Mr. Harry Anslinger, who was in fact the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. And the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, his position made him for some reason, he was extremely jealous of J. Edgar Hoover and the organization represented by the FBI. The size, the scope of it, the kind of men they were, etc., etc., the power that J. Edgar Hoover held even over presidents because of secrets that he knew about everybody. So Harry Anslinger determined to make the Federal Bureau of Narcotics as large, as important, and as satisfying to his ego as he thought the ego of J. Edgar Hoover from all public appearances. This elevated status of being the head of a federal bureau, pretty heady material, apparently went to his head. In testimony before the Congress of the United States, this is what Harry Anslinger said. And this is in 1937 in congressional hearings supporting the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. He said, "There are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S., and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing results from marijuana usage. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others." So, if that is the testimony before the Congress of the United States that helped to make hemp and cannabis Class 1 narcotics, I think it appropriate that a game of horse with the President of the United States resolve this issue once and for all and free the cannabis prisoners held in the for-profit prison systems created by and for the benefit of the Koch brothers at the expense of your society and fact and truth in democracy in America. Turns out the Koch brothers, the three sons of a Russian who emigrated to the United States with billions and billions of dollars before communism took over his oil refineries. And two of the Koch brothers are responsible for an organization called ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a fancy name for an organization that writes legislation favorable to the Koch brothers, to the oil industry, to the Keystone Pipeline, to Dixie Cups, to all of these corporations, Weyerhaeuser, et cetera, all these forest product companies that wealthy families controlling America in the 30s established a set in motion the laws that now hold 4 out of 5 prisoners in the world are held in American prisons. And 4 out of 5 of those prisoners held in American prisons, 4 out of 5 are persons of color. So, a white supremacist racist who's jealous of J. Edgar Hoover in 1937 testifies before a congressman that marijuana will make white women seek sexual relationships with Negroes, Hispanics, and entertainers. And as a result, you can be arrested. It's a felony to be in possession of this substance because it is a Class 1. And on your very first arrest, even if you have no prior record and you are a non-violent criminal, you can serve time in prisons that are owned by for-profit corporations whose shareholders include Governor Jan Brewer of the state of Arizona. And the Correctional Corporation of America last year at Halloween went to a high school party, a high school outside of Phoenix, and locked down the facility and then searched the students, the backpacks of everyone who was there. Now, mind you, these are not law enforcement officers. These are private employees of a for-profit prison corporation called Correctional Corporation of America. And by doing that, they clearly violated the principle of freedom from unnecessary search. Students going to a party at their high school were subjected to a search by a commercial firm that runs a for-profit prison system in Arizona, where the governor last year overspent by $10 million to pay for beds in for-profit prisons when there were Arizona State facility beds available at a lower cost. The reason is the contracts written with the state of Arizona Department of Corrections through federal legislation, courtesy of ALEC and the Koch brothers, 2 of the wealthiest Americans. Are you getting a picture of this? This is wealth continuing wealth. This is wealth suppressing society with false testimony before the Congress of the United States. And as chief executive of the United States, the president, you, Mr. President, Barack Obama, you have the responsibility to assure the American people that the federal government, the largest single consumer of fossil fuels on earth, is doing its part to minimize carbon, to reduce its carbon footprint upon the earth, and to reverse the damage done by all the carbon consumed by the largest single consumer on earth. Enough of this crap about your treaties with developing countries and ramping up periods and all of that. The truth is, hemp is the plant that will sequester more carbon per acre than any other plant on earth, and it's illegal because a white supremacist racist lied to the Congress in 1937. It is 2013. You, as chief executive of the United States, owe it to the federal government to tell the truth about this plant, to tell the truth about the Drug Enforcement Agency, to tell the truth about the treaties that you force other nations to observe, which have turned their countries into civil wars between the growers and the defenders of these treaties. As a result, you created the largest single for-profit prison system in the history of mankind, larger than the gulags of Russia, larger than any of the jails of communism, larger than any of the imprisonments in the history of humankind. This is 21st century slavery, and you, sir, as Chief Executive of the United States, are partially responsible for its continuance. If you signed the document I sent you, called Harry Anslinger Day, a presidential proclamation, every 37 seconds an American would not be arrested for cannabis. Do you see the impact on our courts? Do you see the impact on our communities? Do you see the impact on our economy? If you made America the capital of hemp, if we were producing hemp oil at the capacity of American farming technology, we would be the largest single net exporter of energy ever on earth. And you could tell the Saudis to stick it. 17 Saudi passports in the planes hijacked on 9/11, 2001, and you send them a check for $175 million every day. That's the Saudi royal family. They don't really like us. They need us. They need our jets. They need our Defense Department. They need our contractors to keep them safe. So, what happens if America becomes a sustainable economy based on hemp oil? You would see rapid improvements in employment because hemp oil is used to make pharmaceuticals, it's used to make plastics, it's used to make dozens and dozens and dozens of products. And it makes 4 times as much fiber per acre as any forest product on earth. So, it's time for a logical review of the federal war on drugs. It is time to declare truce. It is time to let the prisoners out that have done nothing but smoke or sell or consume a plant that grows on 6 out of 7 continents on this earth, of which you are president of the most powerful nation, and your policy is echoed around the world. So in 1937, when this became policy, there was an organization forming called, it's the predecessor to the United Nations. And America presented a treaty that required all members joining the League of Nations to agree that cannabis was a Class 1 narcotic and to sign on to this ridiculous, racist bullshit that was presented to the Congress of the United States and made law of the land. A law which has wasted trillions of dollars on interdiction, courts, confinement of prisoners for nonviolent crimes, disruption of their lives, their jobs, their place in communities. Then the federal government got so smart they figured out that You could bust people on RICO charges and take all of their assets. Assets like these behind me. Used to be my house. Used to be my car. Used to be. Yeah. They'll take all your assets, and you can spend your life trying to get your rights back as a citizen of the United States. You know, when you're arrested for cannabis, you lose your right to vote. So you can no longer participate in democracy that would tell the truth about the laws about cannabis. So, if you get arrested for cannabis and you can no longer vote, then the Republicans can try to make sure that they steal the next election, since they failed to steal the prior election and Mr. Romney did not defeat you, the sitting president, Barack Obama. So, if in fact a total review of your policies and a change could take place with one signature on a presidential declaration, a proclamation by the President of the United States, I'm going to encourage you on a live telephone call on Monday night to consider reading and signing that proclamation into law. The effects in this society will be as far-reaching and as deep-reaching as the signature on the first civil rights legislation in the 60s that Johnson gave everyone the right to vote. So, you would be restoring that right to vote to millions and millions, roughly 6.5 million people whose rights have been taken away because they were in possession of a plant, which is not a narcotic, which no one has ever overdosed on, which has never killed anyone except through your aggressive war on drugs based on lies, based on racism, based on white supremacists who before the Congress of the United States of America told absolute fabrications. These same kind of fabrications, if they continue to prevail in governance, like the fabrication of the yellow cake, which took us into the war in Iraq, like the fabrication of a major problem in the environment caused by, of all things, people not telling the truth before the Congress of the United States when they're sworn to testimony to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, as Chief Executive of the United States and head of the federal government of the United States, it is your personal responsibility to straighten this problem out. It is your personal responsibility to take care of this problem created by a white supremacist in 1937 when he lied to the Congress and made cannabis a Class I narcotic. And the effect of it has touched millions and millions of lives negatively. There is nothing contributory about the war on drugs. The supply is as readily available as it's ever been before these expenditures, and it doesn't seem to change the pricing at all. Because on the street, the prices today are lower than they were in 1972 when Nixon declared the war on drugs and put all kinds of treasury and resources behind this war that has no enemy. The enemy is lies. The enemy is the lies told to generations of Americans that cannabis is a dangerous, dangerous drug, when in fact medical studies in numerous countries have proven that the cannabinoids in THC from cannabis will literally kill cancer cells on direct contact in the bloodstream without collateral damage. In the states of Colorado and Washington, the voters have had the wisdom to legalize cannabis. And they're finding that there are tremendous medical benefits available to people in post-traumatic stress disorders, in personality disorders, concentration, appetite suppression, all kinds of things. Dealing with the nausea of chemotherapy. America spends more money on medicine and medical than any other country in the world, and yet it's not the best care in the world. There are countries where you can legally use cannabis to cure your cancer. And America, the United States of America, is not one of them. So as far as being an advanced country, as far as being a true democracy, as far as being a leader in the world, you're looking at fabrications. You're looking at lies. You're looking at a shadow box, sir. And it's worth trillions of dollars to take a better look at it. It's worth trillions of dollars of energy to become oil independent through hemp oil in the United States. It's worth trillions of dollars in pharmaceuticals and healthcare to include all the benefits of cannabis in American medicine today. It is far worth trillions of dollars of savings in treasury and life by stepping out of the civil wars you've created in the countries like Central and South America that are the supply chain. If it were legalized, if it were taxed, it would be a sustainable economy. It would not be a drag on the economy, and it certainly would not create any of the conditions that Mr. Anslinger swore were going to occur as a result of people using this herb. So, here on Rontime, once again, you'll find me berating the President of the United States for failing to accept a challenge to play a game of horse on horseback, to determine if he was going to sign a presidential proclamation making Harry Anslinger Day, April 20th, every year, a national day of gardening for hemp in all species. Cannabis americana, cannabis sativa, and cannabis indica. So, with that in mind, I hope to be a year from now, on my second anniversary on Access 12, to be discussing and congratulating the President for having the intelligence to create Harry Anslinger Day, April 20th, as a national day of gardening for hemp and cannabis to create a sustainable economy in the United States of America and to free from prison more people of color than any other civil rights act. Thank you for inviting me into your viewing space. This is Rontime, and I'll see you again next time. Have a nice day.